Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. Please sit back, relax, and join Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick for an hour of entertaining information about HOAs and HOA law.
Good morning, Sacramento, and this is the Saturday HOA Brunch, and we are delighted to be here, but we have to pay tribute to a legend, Muhammad Ali.
Cassius Clay.
Man, I never got
passed away yesterday, the age of 74 in Phoenix.
I never was able to see him fight live.
You were too young.
Right, like the great Frank Jolly was saying, oh man, I went to the MGM Grand and I saw him fight, who did he say, Buster Douglas or somebody, or Spinks, and then Frank goes, but I would have taken them both out. But that's Frank, so I don't know. But we're not the boxing show. We're the Saturday HOA Brunch. We're exclusively
community associations, brought to you by Angius&Terry. Speaking across the way from me is Jonathan Broderick. I'm Brad Epstein. And we want to thank our callers last week and our texters, right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. Love the callers, love the texters. And if someone wants to call this week,
what's the number?
It hasn't changed.
Is it still 888-923-1380? 888-923-1380. And just as important is 916-747-4622. What's that?
Our text line.
Our text line, 916-747-4622. And any Ballot Board members today? We can have a Ballot Board members? Not today.
Not today.
We're going to devote this today's show to the single topic of the new United States Department of Housing and Urban Development guidance on the use of criminal background checks. This is a really big deal when it comes to associations trying to keep their associations crime-free. Right, Jonathan? Wouldn't you want your community association to be crime-free?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we're going to talk about the new HUD, the new United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, new HUD guidance on the use of criminal background checks. Directly affects landlords, but indirectly it affects community associations, and we're all about community associations. We're going to go ahead, we'll touch upon association boards adopting rules, and we're going to touch upon the fair housing issues and residents and owners making complaints about fair housing discrimination. Right, Jonathan?
That's what it says on my laptop. That's what the topic is. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, acronym HUD. Right?
Everyone has heard of HUD from early on, but not everyone exactly knows what HUD is all about. HUD is all about getting rid of discrimination in housing. And community associations, Jonathan, they are housing, right?
Last time I checked, yes.
Last time
condos,
still
single-family homes, townhomes, high-rises, mid-rises, there's all kind of housing. And who regulates some of the things that happen or don't happen is HUD, right?
It's HUD.
They have their hand and their pulse on everything.
Yeah, interesting. So I wanted to see what HUD's mission was. I went right on the HUD website and I looked right to the heading of mission, HUD's mission. HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable homes for all. HUD is working to strengthen the housing market, to bolster the economy and protect consumers. Right? Sounds good. Yeah, but wait for this one. Okay, hang on. Meet the need for quality, affordable rental homes. Utilize housing as a platform for improving quality of life. Build inclusive and sustainable communities free from discrimination. And here's the punchline. This is part of HUD's mission. The last clause is, and transform the way HUD does business. That's their mission, to transform the way they do business.
Sounds like HUD wants to make America great again, or already is. I mean, I don't know. That's a heck of a mission statement, though.
It is, and it is consistent with community association boards of directors, because community association boards of directors have what kind of a duty, Jonathan?
A fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary. This is a heightened duty to make sure that the values of the homes and their development are indeed as high as they possibly can be. That's the measure. That's the measuring stick.
Whoa, is that the text line that's out and about? I see you opening it up. Is someone already calling in because they want to ask a question about HUD?
And let's see here. It's someone says Someone's asking for some jokes. They say, do you know any good
HUD jokes?
Tilla the HUD jokes. That's good. So I'm glad someone, although someone's in good humor today. So that's good. See, but that proves we read all our texts.
It's better than the emails we get. Well, you guys just give it up and sleep in on a Saturday, but no, because we're here to advocate and educate.
That's right.
For community, on behalf of community associations.
Yeah. So community associations, they are not obligated to make their communities crime-free, but it's important for boards of directors to keep it in mind that you don't want your association to be overrun with crime. Now, here's a zinger for you, Jonathan. This is the one I heard yesterday, and I find it hard to believe. This comes from the federal government. So you know about the
federal government,
the United States federal government.
Heard of them.
So it's basically a statistical comparison. And last year, there were more deaths in America from vehicular accidents or drug overdoses. So what do you think? More deaths from drug overdoses or vehicular accidents in the United States? Which is more? Is it more?
I'm going to say drug overdoses.
Yeah, amazing. That's what the federal government says. So if you watch TV nowadays, you're going to see it come on where there's going to be some show on the OxyContin and the heroin epidemic.
Fentanyl, the great Prince, right? Purple Rain and everybody. He just passed away because of a opioid drug overdose.
Right. Well, that's directly relevant to today because when we're talking about criminal background checks, one of the things that is relevant in our discussion today is the selling and manufacturing of controlled substances. That is directly relevant because when it comes to criminal background checks, we're going to find out that's the punchline today is that is the only conviction that, pursuant to the new HUD guidelines, that a landlord can use to prohibit someone from renting. You hear that? So it's the manufacture or sale of controlled substances. And controlled substances, those are what, Jonathan?
Well, they're any, pharmaceutical drug, or there's recreational like marijuana, or
that's controlled.
Those are controlled. They're all controlled substances.
Right.
So you essentially
marijuana is against the law.
Well, essentially, so
by the federal government,
you can't, because last week we talked about care facilities. I'm wondering if a care facility, you want to make sure that you can't have a marijuana dispensary in your community, is what HUD would. Right.
I see the link here. The link you're making is you had a really difficult time believing or accepting that a care facility was not a business. You felt that is a business.
Well, they're making a revenue. I mean, they're having income. They have money coming in.
Right,
so.
But by virtue of state law, California state law, care facilities are not businesses, just by definition. The law can define things that way, right? Same as when it comes to CC&Rs, community association CC&Rs, the law deems them enforceable unless they're proven unreasonable, right? You have a set of CC&Rs, they're recorded with the county, they are enforceable against the owners, anyone living in the community association, they are enforceable. And so why is this relevant to this topic today, criminal background checks? Why is this relevant? And that is because community associations have what's called crime-free rules. These are document drafted by us, attorneys, for community associations. They have proven very effective, and they are in rules for associations, right? Or CC&Rs, CC&R restrictions, crime-free policies, and these provide for requiring owners to get background checks for tenants and to not let any felons in with respect to different severe convictions. So these are rules that we have been drafting for about 15 years. This crime-free policy, this idea, this template came from Arizona. So in Arizona, they've been having this whereby before it would be in communities, Go ahead, Jonathan. You have something to say.
No, I was just giving you the signal that we're going to have to leave a little cliffhanger to keep the listeners engaged before we go to break. And I've got some questions. So Frank's going to put us to sleep as we go to break here with this background music. But we'll be back. Can you name the tune? Any ideas? No ideas. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, criminal background checks, and HUD is the discussion on the HOA
new
Brunch.
HUD guidance on the use of criminal background checks.
We'll be back.
I also think we'd be a lot better off if we actually talked to each other instead of yelling.
If your community association has a good relationship with their current management company, you can stop listening. However, if you are struggling with your current service provider, we'd love to talk with you to see if Omni Community Management would be a good fit. Transparency, education, communication, and trust are just 4 of the qualities that set Omni apart. This is Rolf Crocker, CEO of Omni. Call us at 916-965-8964. That's 916-965-8964. Online at omni-mgt.com. That's omni-mgt.com. Omni Community Management, your friend in the community association management industry for over 20 years.
Have you ever heard of the saying, a person's home is their castle? Of course you have. But sometimes a construction defect can turn your castle into a catastrophe. If this happens to you, you need proper and professional representation. You need Angius&Terry, LLP. For over 30 years, the attorneys at Angius&Terry have been effectively serving homeowners and community associations, recovering more than $500 million on behalf of their clients. Angius&Terry strives to ensure that your construction defect claims are prosecuted in an aggressive and cost-effective manner. Angius&Terry will also continue to work with homeowners and community associations after the construction defect claims are concluded to make sure that the money received from builders is spent wisely and that your interests are protected during the repair process. Don't let a construction defect turn your castle into a catastrophe. Call Angius&Terry LLP today at 916-567-1400. That's 916-567-1400. Online at angius-terry.com. Angius&Terry LLP. Professional Parking Enforcement, or PPE, was created to provide effective parking solutions for all types of parking issues. PPE focuses on parking problems of HOAs and can quickly eliminate these problems through their system of property inspection, violation updating, ticketing, and enforcement. Contact PPE today at 702-283-0628, online at ppenv.com. PPE, promoting harmony in HOAs through parking and compliance enforcement. We take time to understand your community's needs.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We solve small problems before they become big ones.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We help make your community a better place to live.
Silver Creek Association Management.
It's what we do, because an association is more than just a bunch of homes. It's a community of people. We work with you to make better communities so homeowners can enjoy better lives.
Silver Creek Association Management. Online at sc-manage.com. That's sc-manage.com.
AM 1380, The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
We're back, and we're talking about criminal background checks in regards to HUD. But first order of business, I have 2 things I need to take care of.
Watch out.
We have to give a shout out
Two things to take care of.
To our fans and our colleagues. I've got 2 birthdays that we have to wish for happy birthday. We have Mr. Nick Themalaeus. Happy birthday, Nick. And Diana Wallace. Happy birthday, Diana Wallace.
All right. Well, happy 2 birthdays, huh? Fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you would like to join the scintillating conversation, it is 888-923-1380. And the texts are pouring in. 916-747-4622. This latest text, I think, is hilarious. And so we're talking about HUD, and the first joke was, well, any good jokes about Till of the HUD, right? Or Attila the Hun. Jonathan, here it is. What do Winnie the Pooh and Attila the HUD have in common? What do Winnie the Pooh and Attila the Hun have in common?
I have no idea.
You don't know the answer.
No.
To this one. They both have the same middle name, right?
Okay.
That's great.
All right. That's great.
I like it. All right. Text line is 916-747-4622. 747-4622, area code 916. We're talking about the new HUD guidance on the use of criminal background checks. We learned what HUD is, and anyone can make a fair housing complaint to HUD. What happens is when you do make a fair housing complaint, this is residents, tenants, owners at community associations, and it's about discrimination. So someone says, the association's discriminating against me, and they make a complaint with HUD, and it gets shuttled on over to California, and that is the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And if the Department of Fair Employment and Housing in state of California doesn't address it, then it goes back to HUD. So what is this guidance? So this guidance just came through. This is a big change in policy for HUD. This actually came to me. I did not know that this came through. It was April 4th, 2016. One of our great managers, they came through, and she said, you got to look this up, Brad, because we have these rules that you have made for our community associations. These are crime-free housing rules. And in our crime-free housing rules for community associations, they required owners to get background checks, criminal background checks for any tenants. On April 4th, 2016, HUD's General Counsel released guidance for all housing providers. Is a community association a housing provider, Jonathan?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Not a very good zinger.
And not just, so it's for all housing providers, not just those who are HUD subsidized, not those who are just HUD subsidized. So HUD's General Counsel released guidance for all housing providers regarding how the use of criminal background checks could potentially violate fair housing rules. Wow, so it's a big deal. If landlords want to use criminal background checks as part of their rental criteria, they have the burden to show it is necessary. This criminal background check is necessary to achieve a non-discriminatory housing objective, and that there is no less discriminatory alternative. It is a big burden. It's necessary to use criminal background checks in order to achieve a non-discriminatory business objective. And it's this guidance, you can get it right off the internet, and it is about 2.5 pages. We're going to walk through it, and we're going to see how it affects community associations. Now, it says that criminal background checks, if you want to use them, then you have the burden to show that it's necessary to use criminal background checks in order to achieve a non-discriminatory business objective. So this business objective, so like, Jonathan, you consider yourself a community association. What would be a business objective of a criminal background check? What would be a good, valid business objective? Why are we going to require our owners to have criminal background checks?
To make sure that no criminals or potential... okay. Here's what I like to think. What about that? What's that website that you go on when you're a perv or something and you're Megan's Law or Megan's... What is that?
Megan's List?
Megan's List. So make sure that you're not a community with a playground and a lot of kids and have a lot of child care facilities, and
I think
you have
right
a renter move in that is...
Right. A business objective presumably would be the protection of resident safety and property.
Got it.
Resident safety, and the guidance states that not so fast. They state specifically that the business objective cannot be prospective in nature. The landlord, the association must prove the use of criminal background checks actually accomplishes the business objective. Wow, this is a high burden. Why did this guidance come around, Jonathan? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think that HUD and the reason for implementing this is to kind of just add an additional layer for communities to have a safety net without necessarily...
Well, this guidance, it puts a big... it deters and almost makes it so you can't even have a criminal background check.
It's like a wall, right?
So why did they say, okay, why are they making it harder for criminal background checks to pass muster? Why are they doing that? And this is the reason. So HUD's reason for this guidance is that comes right from HUD itself, that due to the higher than average incarceration rates among certain races, Hispanics and African Americans in the United States relative to their percentage of total population, and when compared to the incarceration rates of non-Hispanic Caucasians, the use of criminal history to deny housing can cause a disparate impact on these particular races.
Okie doke.
So bottom line is the studies apparently by the federal government have shown that there is a higher than average incarceration rate among Hispanics and African Americans compared to Caucasians. We've heard this on the news, right? This has been publicized on national news, right?
Okie doke.
I believe you. Yes. No. I mean, this is. You see the statistics.
Haven't
in
you
all
heard
seriousness,
this? You've seen this. This is
right.
This has come on the news.
And this
like
is
short stories on.
It's a hot issue.
News.
How they are saying that the percentage of Hispanics and African Americans that are incarcerated are a lot higher nationally on the statistics than any other ethnicity.
Which country has more people in prison than any other country? Who's number one?
Mexico. No, USA. Us.
USA.
And some of them are for just stupid reasons, in my opinion. The incarceration of people for 10 years because they decided to smoke the grass or something, but I mean, that's just the world that we live in.
Well, right. Well, regardless of your opinion, the studies have shown that there is a higher than average rate of incarceration for Hispanics and African Americans. So HUD says we're going to go ahead and put this guidance out there. And does it throw a complete kibosh on criminal background checks?
Kibosh?
We'll work our way through that. So what is interesting is that if you're going to have a criminal background check in itself, that idea, that rule, let's say it's in your community association rules where it says that owners must have criminal background checks made on prospective tenants. Is that discriminatory in how it's written?
No,
it's that's completely neutral. However, as part of our constitutional law, if a rule like that has a disparate impact, a discriminatory effect, even though it's neutral on its face, but as it's applied, it has a discriminatory effect on one or more of the protected classes, which is race, then in order to successfully defend a claim of discrimination in this background check, the landlord or the community association must show this policy or practice is necessary in order to achieve, again, a non-discriminatory business objective, and there's no less discriminatory alternative that would achieve that business objective. So now we're going to look at the factors. We're going to look at how a landlord can use a criminal background check.
Well, most importantly, just to kind of wrap up what you're saying there with making sure that you're staying neutral and fair with the policy of utilizing these background checks, I think it's important that there's consistency with the community association, and they don't say, well, you know what, we met Ed, and Ed seems like a great guy, so we're just going to let him go ahead and move in without doing a background check. And then another guy comes, and they're kind of like, whoa, this guy's got like tattoos on one of his arms, and he's got an earring, and he drives a big loud truck. Let's do a background check on this guy. So it's important for consistency, right? Like the board of directors, when we talk about if you're going to enforce the rules, you always got to enforce them the same way. I mean, a board of directors or a landlord, if they are choosing who they decide to do background checks on, that they could get in a lot of hot water.
True.
Right?
So and it is very rare for community associations to do criminal background checks. That's not really done. I don't know any associations who do criminal background checks.
Even if they're having tenants move in?
Right. What they do, Jonathan, is they might have a rule like this crime-free program and require owners to do background checks.
But then they have to submit the results of the background check to...
No. They just have to.
It's just a pass or fail.
They do it. Typically that's
thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
Wow.
All right, so we're going to look at the nuts and bolts of this when we get back. We're going to figure out if there's a complete kibosh by the federal government on criminal background checks when we come back.
All right.
I'm not perfect.
Feeling anxious, overwhelmed, looking for answers? Experience the Dr. Robin Zazio Show on AM 1380 The Answer, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Dr. Robin Zazio is one of the featured doctors on the A&E Emmy-nominated TV show Hoarders, host of My Extreme Animal Phobia on Animal Planet, and author of The Hoarder and You, How to Live a Happier, Healthier, Uncluttered Life. Dr. Robin is also the owner of the Anxiety Treatment Center of Sacramento. Don't miss the Dr. Robin Zazio Show Saturday mornings at 10 on AM 1380 The Answer.
Having trouble understanding your community association's reserve study? Does your HOA's reserve study seem to be written in a strange language? Hi, I'm Robert Browning, owner of the Browning Reserve Group. At the Browning Reserve Group, we have been providing easy-to-understand reserve studies since 1999. We actually listen to our communities and help them plan for the future. Find us online at browningrg.com. That's browningrg.com, or toll free at 877-708-0600. That's 877-708-0600. Clarity from complexity, the Browning Reserve Group.
If you are a community association or manager, you know your banking relationship is vital to your success. At Sacramento Bank of Commerce, a division of Redding Bank of Commerce, our industry expertise and personal attention make that task a breeze. With our specialized banking, lockbox, online banking, and remote deposit capture, trips to the bank are no longer necessary. And Sacramento Bank of Commerce can help your communities with a loan to repair, replace, or upgrade the investment. For local decisions and in-house processing, get in touch with our team today. Call Sacramento Bank of Commerce at 916-772-0131. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you see the story about the Homeowners Association? I wonder what their residents think.
I don't know, but I love my condominium association. The place looks great and is well managed, and our property values are increasing.
Well, that's a good thing.
Community Associations Institute, CAI, has helped us build a great community. They have tools for safeguarding our investment, including education for our board and professional training for our manager. Just visit CAI at responsiblecommunities.com.
Okay, responsiblecommunities.com.
This is AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Romney, he sucks!
Okay, so sorry, I accidentally hit the button there. But we were having a little conversation when we went to break, and you kind of guided me and cleared the air on the fact
to wrap
of,
your head around
well,
this whole
because
issue.
community associations boards of directors are in charge of making all of these guidelines, enforcing the rules, and keeping the asset valuable and crime free.
Right.
So the landlords, they are the ones that are required by the rules in the community association to do this background check. But what I want to know is, where is the verification to the board of directors so that they can say, okay, they did their due diligence, they did a correct and a thorough background check, but where's the documentation? Where is the...
I got you. So when it comes to community associations, they have different rules. So this idea of requiring owners to have a criminal background check for any renters, that it's not in the law. It's not something that is required that associations have, landlords do, but associations they have rules that could require this. They have rules that, and you're saying, well, how does an association board of directors know that the owner's actually doing this? It's because the owner has to, there's different ways to do it. One is the association board can just believe the owners do it. It's a requirement, and if an owner gets caught in that they have trouble with a tenant, and then the association goes back and says, well, we look at their criminal background, or, go ahead and show it to us, then they can get caught. Others say they can hand in a certification. They could go to the board of directors. There's a lot of, you're touching upon an important issue, and that is boards of directors, managers will come to me and say, well, I have owners fighting. I have an owner we have this type of violation. How do we know that it's actually occurring? When it comes to boards of directors, it's not like a court of law where there's a particular due process required by the law other than holding a hearing. A board of directors, they weigh the evidence. They're the judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to board hearings. When
it's
it comes to
kangaroo court.
It isn't, though.
No.
It isn't. And why is that? Because board of directors have a
fiduciary
duty. Absolutely. If a board of directors is going to believe an owner or owners about other owners' violations, then they have to make darn well certain, because the association is going to enforce it and then go to court, then they will have the burden of proof, right? If they're the plaintiff in a court case, the plaintiff has the burden of proof in almost all court cases. They'll have to have sufficient evidence that they know will occur in court to prove it.
All right, so just curious, have you ever ran into a situation in your 20 years of working in this community association industry as an attorney where a board of directors has found a landlord guilty of not doing a background check? And what would the penalties be for letting someone move into their association that is going to be detrimental to the environment?
Right. So it's set forth in the rules. Associations have schedules of fines. They could do the special individual assessment, different enforcement techniques. If you want to join the conversation, it's 888-923-1380. Text line 916-747-4622. We received a text. We'll get to that in just a second. So I do want to explain how this guidance works. This guidance provides that landlords may not use arrest records. They must take into account the nature and severity of an individual's conviction. So you get it. So association has a rule. They require a landlord to do background check. And in background check, they can't look at arrest records, only convictions. They must take into account the nature and severity of individual's conviction. They must take into account when the conviction occurred, because studies have shown that if it's 5 years, 10 years ago, then it is not a great reflection on the behavior of the person currently.
Well, because they're rehabilitated.
So the four factors. Let me finish that. So they must make individualized assessments of each applicant, considering relevant mitigating information such as the facts and circumstances surrounding the criminal conduct, the age of the individual at the time the conduct occurred, evidence that the individual has maintained a good tenant history before and after the commission of conduct, and evidence of rehabilitation efforts. That's a really difficult thing for a landlord to do in order to comply with an association rule regarding criminal background checks. You are nodding your head, and shaking your head, rather. I agree, and so everyone else does.
Well, it's brutal because
it is brutal.
What are they going to do? Are they going to scale? Okay, so this person was arrested 6 years ago for armed robbery, but we're going to let them move in because they're rehabilitated, and we're not concerned that they might ransack the neighbor's house. You know, I mean, it's like, okay, you can't look at their arrest records, but you can look at the crimes that they've been charged with and then determine.
Well, how are you going to get all that information? You're not going to be able to get all that information. You're not going to be able to. It makes it unworkable. It really makes it unworkable. So this is the person. Our texter says, how about someone who just purchased into the community, and how does it affect landlords and community managers? And so the idea is that when you move into a community association as a resident, so it's not really going to have effect on you until you rent out. Now, again, this only affects communities that require background checks. And these crime-free programs, these rules and CC&R provisions, they've been pretty popular because community associations have, especially condominium associations where people are crunched together more. They have crime problems in certain areas. In fact, there was that crime spree we talked about a couple times on the show in Roseville, right, where there's a whole lot of those gang mailboxes being broken into. That was last summer. Associations have done, we talked about security companies, we talked about security cameras, right? It's important that associations try and make their community safe.
I agree. No, I definitely agree, and I'm just took a huge sigh of relief because it wasn't a Winnie the Pooh joke on the on the text line. So, all right.
Okay, so let me say this now. Let me
get it out
go
there.
To this subject. So this is a HUD guidance from their general counsel, published to the public. You can find it right on the HUD website. It's real recent, but it's not a law. This is not a law. There's not a statute. There's not a federal statute. It's not a state statute. It's not a court case. There's no legal precedence. So, especially if you're, from the look on your face, Jonathan, you're saying, well, how the heck? Why then should someone comply with this difference in criminal background checks? Why should they comply with
that too? And then I was kind of wondering who is HUD's general counsel? They're in-house, but are they, subbing it out to some law firm that, is just rolling in the dough on these?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It is Helen R. Kanovsky. Well,
I'd like to get Kanovsky on our show one of these days. I'm going to call him on Monday and see if Kanovsky can come in.
I think that's a great idea. And so if it's not a law, then why should communities comply with this guidance? Why should they comply with this, Jonathan? What do you think?
Because it is always good to implement practices that are going to be beneficial to the well-being of the community, right? I mean, the sign in the community that says don't go over 25 miles per hour is there because it's going to hopefully prevent people from speeding in the community, right? The same thing with what you're discussing here is it's not a law, but it's a standard or a set or a guideline that...
You're getting closer.
All right.
Think about it. This is coming from HUD.
You don't mess with HUD.
You don't mess with HUD. At the beginning of our show, we said that residents, owners, and tenants can make complaints against community associations with who? HUD for discrimination. HUD is now saying we consider this discriminatory behavior. If you have criminal background checks where the landlord looks at arrest records, discriminatory.
It's a warning.
Or if they don't take into account the nature and severity of individual's conviction, that's discriminatory. If they don't take into account when the conviction occurred, if they don't make an individualized assessment on this criminal background check, then they are considered discriminating. It's not a law, but they're giving you a heads up.
Exactly. So they're saying, hey, here's your warning. Don't do this. Or
what? Or what?
Or
Do
else.
You know what the penalties are if potential penalties?
I bet HUD just comes down
for
hard.
A fair, this is completely separate from a civil lawsuit by someone who sues in a community association for discrimination, where they would go into a court of law and say, I was discriminated against, and here's how it affected me. You owe me money. It was intentional, punitive damages. a penalty from HUD is up to $50,000 in fines plus attorney's fees. It's pretty severe. Remember the Pookie case?
Right.
Remember the Pookie case?
That was a ton of money, and that was all over.
That was attorney's fees, right? That went up in Auburn 10 years ago. A tenant sued a community association.
For access?
No. Remember Pookie case?
Pookie the dog, okay.
Right. It was when this community association didn't allow the tenant to have a companion dog.
Animal, yeah.
What did that cost the association?
Over six figures, I thought.
Over $160,000. $80,000 in their own attorney's fees, $80,000 in attorney's fees that the association had to pay for the tenant. Big money. So
when you go to battle with HUD and their general counsel, I imagine that if you lose, you're responsible for. I'm just curious. Would you be responsible for the attorney fees for HUD if you lost? Or would they, if you won, and how often do you beat HUD? Are they responsible for paying your fees? How does that work?
Yeah, so they could nail you for attorney's fees, fines, and they could also do injunctive relief as well. So you would have to go to classes, post signs. It's not pretty. So let's look at the different components, arrest records. Why do you think HUD is saying, if we learn the purpose behind what HUD's guidance is, maybe it'll help us understand and be able to comply with it and figure it out. So if a landlord uses an arrest record, why isn't that something that HUD wants to allow, do you think?
Well, because they don't want the past to reflect the. Yeah, I mean, I thought we said earlier that you can't use their arrest record.
Right, you can't use it.
Right, but you can look at their previous convictions.
What's the difference? Arrest records.
Well, that's just
they might have not got convicted.
Right, it could have just been
right.
Okay,
arrested, not convicted.
Well, we're going to go to break. So, what do you want to leave the listeners on the edge of their seat for when we get back?
Safe harbor. what is the safe harbor?
One that doesn't get hit by a hurricane. Okay, no. Go ahead.
Yeah. It is where can a landlord and a community association be completely safe with respect to this issue? We'll come back and talk about it.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
The challenges presented by today's economy and rebounding housing market is forcing many homeowners association boards of directors to operate their HOAs more like a business. It's a balancing act of trying to stay solvent and still provide homeowners with quality amenities and services. One of the main challenges HOA boards are facing is attempting to recover unpaid HOA fees owed by delinquent homeowners. Collection efforts are often very time-consuming. If you want to get the HOA fees collection monkey off of your back, call ATC Assessment Collection Group. ATC is an attorney-supervised collection company providing collection and foreclosure services to HOAs in both California and Nevada's most recognizable communities. Get back to what you actually volunteered to do as an HOA board member. Effectively oversee your community. Call ATC today at 916-641-1410. That's 916-641-1410. Online at atcacg.com. That's atcacg.com. ATC Assessment Collection Group.
Professional Parking Enforcement, or PPE, was created to provide effective parking solutions for all types of parking issues. PPE focuses on parking problems of HOAs and can quickly eliminate these problems through their system of property inspection, violation updating, ticketing, and enforcement. Contact PPE today at 702-283-0628, online at ppenv.com. PPE, promoting harmony in HOAs through parking and compliance enforcement. We take time to understand your community's needs.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We solve small problems before they become big ones.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We help make your community a better place to live.
Silver Creek Association Management.
It's what we do, because an association is more than just a bunch of homes. It's a community of people. We work with you to make better communities so homeowners can enjoy better lives.
Silver Creek Association Management. Online at sc-manage.com. That's sc-manage.com.
This is AM 1380, The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Are you ready for the fourth quarter of the HOA Brunch? I mean,
the Saturday HOA Brunch.
Oh, so, all right. So we were talking about safe harbor before.
Right. Well, first, 888-923-1380. Call in. 916-747-4622 is the text line.
No Winnie the Pooh jokes on the text line anymore, though.
I thought that was a great joke. Okay, so what's
safe harbor?
Safe harbor. Okay, yeah. So where's every law has a safe harbor, right? No, not necessarily, but some do. For instance, the fiduciary duty law, right? We have. If an association board of directors, if they act reasonably, best interest of the owners as a whole, and they consult with an expert when it's outside their expertise,
then they can't be held accountable.
Right? pretty much. Yeah, court's not going to overturn their decision. Right. That's sort of a safe harbor. This is you comply with these particular provisions in the law, and you are going to be liability free. So. What exactly is this law does have a safe harbor. What exactly is a safe harbor? And that is if they use a criminal background check and only exclude tenants who have been convicted of the illegal manufacture or distribution of a controlled substance. That is it right there. If a landlord uses a criminal background check and only excludes applicants who have been convicted of the illegal manufacture or distribution of a controlled substance. Specifically, this doesn't mean the use or possession of controlled substances. It's only the illegal manufacture or distribution. What are we talking about there? The illegal distribution or manufacture. This happens in many of my community associations that I represent. High end, all across the board, this is a big deal. This is factories at community associations in homes mass producing methamphetamine, marijuana, and marijuana products. And this has a big effect on the neighbors. So it is a big deal. And you have that particular safe harbor.
Well, it is, and I want to give a shout out to our guest host occasionally that pops in, Rick DeGruccio, and he was talking about how there's this huge ballot measure, and it's not necessarily just for a community association, but for up in Nevada City, there's a big issue with outdoor marijuana grows. And
I can imagine.
Yeah,
up there in the hills, right?
Right. And so Rick's, telling me, he's like, hey, Jonathan, this whole ballot measure's coming up, and I got to, figure out how we're going to get this thing to go through so that there's no outdoor marijuana. Because what are those houses and those factories, as you put it, usually bring oftentimes is crime and violence. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you don't want that.
Arguably, yeah. And right, so we have the safe harbor, right? You can't make or sell controlled substances, but there's these other crimes that arguably have a bigger impact on communities, especially in condominium associations, such as convictions of felonies, right? Yeah. That involve weapons, gangs, theft, violence, right? Weapons, gangs, theft, and violence. But this new guidance, it says if you're going to go ahead and require owners to do background checks, criminal background checks, then you have to do a real analysis. The landlord has to do a real analysis. They have to look at the arrest records, the prior convictions, right? It can't be too long in the past, and the age of the tenant when they were convicted. So it is really a difficult compliance. The nature of the conviction, when it occurred, individualized assessment. So HUD is saying in order to avoid a discrimination, being presumed you're discriminating in a background check, then you need to look at an individualized assessment of the tenant's convictions, consider relevant mitigating information. I didn't even know that you could even get this relevant mitigating information regarding someone's convictions.
You can find anything on the internet. Yeah. I'm telling you.
Yeah, hire someone to do the criminal background check. Are they really going to are they going to be able to find out the facts or circumstances surrounding the criminal conduct? Are they going to really find out about the age of the individual? I guess you could do that, the age, you could figure that out. Evidence that the individual has maintained a good tenant history before and after. Yeah, you can get that. And evidence of rehabilitation efforts. No, how can you get that
I'm sure
information?
You could see which institution that they were living at, right? If they were in a facility like a jail or a correctional facility, you can't. I'm sure that there's records.
All right, so the bottom line though today is that when it comes to community associations having rules requiring criminal background checks, the burden of writing these rules in a way so that they don't have a discriminatory effect is now much higher. And it's now our job to see if we can draft these rules in a way so that they can be applied in a non-discriminatory way and without a discriminatory impact.
Okie doke.
Sounds good. I mean, it's just one of these topics and issues that to me is, there's a lot of gray area in there.
Well, we want to thank everyone for listening. We love our listeners. Thank you for the text today. And
okie doke.
Okie doke.
We'll see you next week.
All right.